Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matthew with another episode of Watty's channel. Today is the 7th of September. It is a Wednesday. This will actually be the second video I make today, following up the British Bulldog video. So, I was kind of pondering some of ideas that I've been wanting to make for several weeks now. And the topic I decided to fall on for this video was the my least favorite wrestling action figure. Now there's trillions of figures out there that I absolutely despise. You know, we look at like Jakks Pacific, the Jakks Classic Superstars. You look at the Mattel figures, and what are some things that they talk about? Toy Biz being another one of them. They talk about posable limbs, movable joints and all that. I absolutely despise that 100%. With the rubber figures from LJN, they were absolutely perfect. I still believe that because I grew up with Hasbro, I still consider Hasbro the elite figures, the elite wrestling figures of all time. And, they were just simple plastic toys. But the great thing about those figures, you could move the arms up and down, and that's really all you had to do. That way, you had a good punching good fighting skills as far as punching, throwing clotheslines. You want to throw a body slam, you know what? You do all that perfectly. But once you start getting into those, posable, limbs and stuff, anytime we try to stand up one of those guys, they fall over. It just horrible play. I couldn't imagine having those as a kid. That would drive me absolutely nuts. As an adult collector, trying to display those is just an absolute nightmare. So, again, criteria for this video. Obviously, I have to have the figures on hand. A lot of those figures I'm talking about, as far as Toy Biz and Jakks and Pacific and the what are the other ones, Mattels. I'm pretty much packaged all those up. They're all on my site listed for sale, so those won't be included in this video. Now, when you take a look at these Jakks Classic Superstars, I've said it before. I absolutely love the box sets. To me, the figure loose does nothing for me, but in the box they look beautiful. I absolutely love those figures, display purposes, because they're inside the package, or the way that it kind of sits right now, kind of like a library. You gotta pull the package off the shelf to look at it. Kind of sucks, but it's still I like the way it looks. It works for me. So that's one thing. I have to I have to have the figure on me, and some of the figures that I'm not gonna be touching. I've said it for a long time. I was never a huge fan of Remco. I guess because I always kind of looked at them as the copycats of the toy line industry, and a lot of the figures that I actually had as a kid, they're like cheap dollar store figures back in the heyday, and they were knockoffs. I think they were called like KO or something. So, as a matter of fact, as a reference, I got these two figures. I just kind of packaged them away. I think this is what I'm talking about. Now, these aren't, I don't think those are Remco. I think those are what they're called, KO or something. I'm not familiar with this toy line or anything. This is just an Iron Sheik and a Hulk Hogan figure. But this is what I had as a kid, and that's what I thought Remco was, so I absolutely despise that. For this video, Remco's will not be included. Yeah, they all have the exact same He-Man body and everything, which sucks. But I mean, they're still, when you actually look at them, they're actually still good wrestling figures. Regardless of the fact that they all look alike. I said that the LJN thumb wrestlers, I absolutely despise the thumb wrestlers. I still believe that they're some of the ugliest toys you'll ever see. Watching Jason Nupp, New 80s Revolution, he got me into really interested in a lot of action figures, such as the Bendys, the Thumb Wrestlers, the Remco figures. So things I probably wouldn't have been interested in the past. I've got a huge collection of it based on that information. And so it looks like a good chunk of these figures that I'm looking at here basically come from either Hasbro, Galoob, and LJN. I mean, that was to be expected. I mean, that's where a good chunk of my collections come from. And just kind of looking around the room, see if there's anything else I could have added to this, but I really don't think so. I think this is pretty much it. And you think of it this way. the original San Francisco, the Galoob, the Hasbro, and the LJNs, you're probably going to talk about the top 4 wrestling lines, and yet I'm mentioning that they have some of the worst figures, so we're only doing a top 10 here, so it's not going to be like a crazy long video. If it is a successful video, maybe I'll go further, break it down by my favorites, but that's going to be impossible, so I probably will never do that. Maybe I can, incorporate numbers 11 through 20, keep it going some, but for now, we're doing a top 10 of my personal least favorite figures, and I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree, with some of the items I selected. So, the first one, coming as the 10th worst figure, in my opinion, does come from the original San Francisco toy makers. So, a lot of these OSFTM figures I do have carded, as you've seen from my last, walkthrough. Because I had purchased so many loose figures in the past, before I started acquiring them on card, I do have the loose figures sitting in front of their carded figures. Now, looking at this figure, there's you would think it's LJN size relatively. It would be a great figure, and aesthetically, it's okay. It's not terrible. It's not perfect, but so this little red button that's supposed to make it vibrate, it doesn't vibrate, and to me that does nothing anyways. If I was a kid playing with this, why would I care if a figure vibrates? One of the things that really irritates me aesthetically about this figure is these little tiny baby hands. I have no idea what that's all about, and the Sting figure, isn't much better. So the original San Francisco vibrating figures, easily one of the worst figures, and Lex Luger, they're just horrible. Absolutely despise them. Hulk Hogan, easily the worst among the group, with the little baby hands. Again, aesthetically, it's fine. If you took this plastic away, made it like rubber, or I don't know, just anything else, to me it just feels like a breakable figure. So you really have to be cognizant of how you treat this as a kid. And most people, kid-wise, are tossing these things all over the place. So I do have original San Francisco vibrating figure as my 10th least favorite figure. Coming at number 9. Now, there's so many figures, either Series 1 or Series 2 I could have selected. And again, with this particular line, the Hasbro Brutus Beefcake from Series 1. I still love the Hasbros. I love all the Hasbro figures. Obviously, there are those that just bother me for whatever reason. In this case, the little sleeper hold he has with his arm, I don't like that at all. I think that's... you're not actually putting any of your wrestlers in sleeper holds anyways as a kid. The fused legs, obviously a terrible design for any of the Hasbro figures. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't really work for any of them. And you don't really have a good punching motion with this figure either. So this whole design of this figure is completely flawed. Obviously, the light years better when they got into Series 3 with the zebra pants Brutus Beefcake and the separation of the legs, which made it an ideal figure, one of the most elite figures of the line. They did keep the same Brutus head mold, but that's fine. They use a lot of body molds to mimic other characters. Look at Jim Duggan and the Berserker, which made no sense with the whole thumbs up gimmick. But I do have the Hasbro Brutus Beefcake from Series 1. You know what? Kind of talking about the Series 1 and Series 2 figures, what happened to eBay. I'm thinking about doing another follow-up video for that. Probably, if not the next video, maybe a couple videos down the line. There's a couple of stories that I'm pretty sure would irritate some folks hearing about some of my experiences lately. So I think it would make a good video. Generally, with this type of channel, I don't like to... I like to keep things light. It's supposed to be a joyful video channel, so I really don't like complaining, but sometimes it's good to vent. So I think that video will probably be coming up in the next couple videos. Brutus Beefcake from Hasbro. the ninth worst wrestling figure of all time. Coming at number 8. Now this one's actually a custom. I did purchase a original from the UK recently, so that's probably gonna be here in a couple weeks. And I'm also bidding on another one. Actually, you know what? I take it back. I actually won that auction, so I actually have 2 of the Big Josh figures coming in very soon. One from the UK, one from one of my favorite sellers on eBay, Ohio Figures. So Nathan, I got a few different purchases from him recently, including an original Big Josh Gloop figure. So this one I got from Krem's Closet, and I got it for $100. Nowadays, I regret that purchase. It's a good custom. It's not 100%. It's not 100% replica to the original. And of course, when you look at the skin and body mold of the figure, it's an obvious custom. So aesthetically, it's a beautiful figure, and because it's a UK exclusive, and this one is very rare, the Big Josh figure is one of the most expensive figures you're going to acquire for your collection, regardless of what collections you have. For the Gloop, it's easily number 1 most expensive. What makes this a bad figure is the pose. I get it. He normally is supposed to carry this axe up here, and with the arm up like that to chop or what have you. I get it, but it's not a playable figure. As a kid, if you're wanting to, wrestle with this guy, it's not gonna do anything for you. It's terrible. Again, for us who are adults and just want to collect these for nostalgia reasons, and for me, I think the Hasbros were nostalgia. More once I got into collecting those, and I just got into more other things just because. So now it's just all these collections kind of took off on me, and I actually got a whole lot more than I ever expected. And I'm glad I did, because every time I come down here, kind of look around the room, it brings joy every time. Some amazing figures, and they're not toys; they're actual pieces of art. So, but Big Josh. Expensive figure, even a customized one like this, just a terrible pose, which makes him number 8 on my list of worst action figures of all time. Coming at number 7, I didn't actually think that original San Francisco was going to be on this list at all. The vibrating figure, maybe I understood that one. But at number 7, I'm going with, I think this one came out of Series 2. Maybe Series 1, I don't know. I have it on card as well, but it is the Macho Man Randy Savage. Now, the reason this was such a surprise to me is because aesthetically, this is an absolutely gorgeous figure. I mean, color-wise, it's just beautiful. I mean, there's no other way to say it. It's a beautiful figure. The problem is, you know how I am. I love my poses, and this is an unplayable figure. What do I say? Well, he's got the arm drop. He could drop an elbow on you. That's his fighting attribute. And I pretty much stopped using that as an attribute because it makes no sense. Any figure can drop an elbow, so even if they don't have, obviously the little elbow like this one does, or a Ron Simmons, so using it as a specialty, it just doesn't make sense. Kind of like a Rickroad LJN, the hand fused to the body. Just overall, fighting-wise, terrible design. Display-wise, absolute beauty. One of the best-looking figures of the original San Francisco line. Again, I'm looking at this from a kid's standpoint, from a playability standpoint, and the figure is just unplayable. And that makes it one of the all-time worst wrestling action figures of all time. That was number 7. Macho Man, original San Francisco. This one I was kind of questioning, but I decided to put it on here. I talked about, movable joints and, posable limbs and all that. I don't have too many figures like that. But from original San Francisco is the Dennis Rodman and I also have a Hulk Hogan over there. So I actually have both Hulk Hogan and Rodman loose, as well as the Hogan Rodman 2-pack on card. So the carded figure, I think I paid, was it $100? No, it wasn't that expensive. Maybe 30. I think that was more realistic, because with these type of figures, I really didn't have to have them on card. So if it was like $100, I probably wouldn't have gone that way. I think it was probably $30 I paid for them, and well, for the carded figures, I don't remember what I paid for the loose ones. I think they came in a lot. So when I was in my original San Francisco collecting days, I'm still technically in the collecting days, because I still have some additional box sets I need to acquire. But these were some of the figures, and they were actually a very rare set. You don't see these 2-packs very often. And this one, if I kind of like stand on my computer, right now it stands okay, but generally with a lot of these movable joint pieces, they don't stand very well. They fall over like crazy. They do not display well. Right now I'm laying this up against other cards on my shelf, so it's keeping it in place. But and for this right here, I wouldn't enjoy this as a wrestler. If I was a kid, I would use the heck out of it. But like I said, I've used the Incredible Hulk and Bigfoot as wrestlers, so why would I not use this? But it's just weird seeing Dennis Rodman as a wrestler. Me being from Chicago, obviously huge Rodman fan. All those championships we won because of Rodman and Pippen and Horace Grant, and obviously MJ. You don't win those championships without the greatest basketball player of all time. All right, so that was number 6. Number 5. This one came up as my least favorite Hasbro figure of all time, and it is the Ravishing Rickroad figure. So again, I'm deeply surprised and hate the fact that I have to put multiple Hasbro figures in this video, because like I said, Hasbro to me is the most elite wrestling action figures ever made. But the Rickroad figure, they keep giving this guy so many terrible poses, terrible figures, and I don't know why these toy companies hate this guy so much. So he's got a few good things to work with him. The arm punching motion, yeah, it looks cool and everything, but it's like the bear hug with Hulk Hogan. How often are you going to sit there, pull the arms apart so they can actually use their action? So head sculpt, decent, not bad. From the waist down, I love the design of the pants and shoes, but that's it. To me, essentially, this is an unplayable figure. Yeah, you can raise the arm up and down, which definitely helps to throw a punch or a clothesline, but I would use it if I had it. Never did, but it would have been very difficult, and it would have annoyed the heck out of me as a kid. And just having it as an adult and just kind of looking at it, I'm like, no. This, to me, I think this is maybe a dollar figure. Sometimes, I've been recently trying to acquire this figure more often, just for the simple fact that I'm trying to sell it, send it out to my buddy Rob, just to see if we can get these customized. And they're going to turn this into a 1-2-3 kid, and trying to get as many of these figures as possible, because, like I said, I like having duplicates, and when I have to pay like $10, $15, $20 for a loose Rickroad like this, yeah, he's going to eventually turn into a $200 1-2-3 kid figure, but no. This actual figure, maybe $1 at best. Alright, we are in the top 4 now. And this pose you're going to see very often. So we'll go to number 4 first. From the original San Francisco Toy Makers Series 1, we have Johnny B. Bad, a.k.a. Mark Merrow. And I've said it before, this pose works for some figures. On this particular figure, it's not terrible, but again, it's not the best. I obviously like the Series 2 figure a little bit better with the silver and as opposed to the white. And aesthetically, it looks great. Display purposes, you can't go wrong. But fighting-wise, and it's essentially a rubber figure, so you can't move the arms, not really. So you can't really fight with this. It's just a horrible figure. Display, I mean, aesthetically, again, I'll say it a lot. Aesthetically, it looks great. Definitely one of the best looking figures of the original San Francisco line. Is just playability wise that I can't stand. And so we do have the original San Francisco Mark Merrow at number 4. Now this figure is not part of this competition, but I am going to bring him up just as reference. So from LJN, I think it was Series 2, the King Kong Bundy figure. You know, they do have obviously similar sizes, so it kind of works for Mark Merrow, but not much. When I talk about LJN figures, I think there's like 72 figures or something with all of the variants and all that, so it might actually be a little bit more. But I kind of break the LJN figures down into 4 waves. So 1 through 10, those are, in my opinion, the elite figures. You know, those have the best fighting poses, which that alone puts them in elite status. And of course, if the design of the figure, you know, the colors, you know, that makes it more pop, it's, you know, makes it more perfect. So 1 through 10, the elite figures. You know, 11 through 25 is what I classify as the top tier figures, and then 26 to 50 middle tier figures, and 51 to 72 bottom tier figures. You know, something like a Randy Savage to me would be like a mid tier figure. Something like I'm trying to think of a really bad Jimmy Snuka, obviously bottom tier figure. I look at King Kong Bundy as a top tier figure. I thought he was going to come in like number 8 when I did my video. He didn't crack my top 10, but I think he would easily be somewhere in the top 15. And by chance he didn't reach top 15, at least the top 20. I absolutely love this King Kong Bundy figure with the passion. And with this LJN, this is the one time that this fighting pose actually works for the figure. You know, you just got to use your imagination to throw a punch and clothesline, body slam and all that. But it's just a beautiful figure to work with. And like I said, it's a top tier LJN figure. I absolutely love this one. So the fighting pose works for this figure, but again, it does not work for all the figures. And Mark Merrow, Johnny B. Bad, number 4, just doesn't work as well. Coming at number 3, I didn't have this particular one. I had the US version of Lex Luger from Galoob series. Well, this one was Series 2. Again, I had the Blue Trunks Series 1 as a kid. I used it. You know, we wrestled Galoob with Hasbros because we had whatever we had as wrestlers. I use this figure all the time. I absolutely despised this figure. Lex Luger with the arms done like that is easily, I mean, number 3, I think I was being generous putting him at number 3 because this is a horrendous figure. And Lex Luger, I mean, once he got into the WWF and I became more familiarized with him and everything, not the narcissist Lex Luger. I mean, nobody really cares about the bad guy. Now we're talking about Mr. America, essentially. You know, that's the Lex Luger that, you know, we knew and love. And of course, hearing the stories about him later on in life with Elizabeth, I mean, that kind of sucked. If those stories are true, you know, this man, you know, should have been Wrestling Hall of Famer. Probably never going to happen. But that's a story for another time. The figure itself sucks. Garbage. Number 3. Coming at number 2. Now, again, this is the UK version. I had the US version as a kid. You know, I played it like crazy. But again, number 2, Ron Simmons. This is about the biggest piece of trash you'd ever find. I absolutely despise this figure with every fiber of my soul. You look the arm up, that's it. He drops an elbow. That is his only fighting technique. What what with Galoob with the whole fusing the hand to the chest. I don't understand it. I mean, if that arm was out, even if you had it out like like Rickroad, where is he here? I mean, obviously because of the kind of rubber hard plastic that these guys were made out of, you're not gonna be able to move them like the Hasbros. But I mean, notice that the 1-2-3 Kid or Ric Flair and Rick Rude figures. Notice that they're not actually touching the chest. They do have that little space. If they did have a little gap in here, would that really have made a difference? 99.9% chance, no. But putting it to the body, horrible design, and this is why I'm saying Galoob produced some of the worst wrestling figures of all time. Now, for years, practically my entire life, up until about, I don't know, let's say a year ago, I said Galoob was my second favorite toy line. But that was kind of out of default. I had Hasbro, I had Galoob, end of the line right there. So when I got into collecting wrestling figures last year, obviously Hasbro was really important for me. I wanted the Galoobs because I had them as a kid, so I figured, I might as well get them as well. When you have to spend $125 on a UK Ron Simmons, it's just painful. It doesn't just hurt your pocket; it hurts your brain. Even when I had to go out and pay like $10 for a US version, it's just a terrible buy because this figure is so terrible. Ron Simmons, Galoob. I really wish Galoob did more things right. Unfortunately, their toy lines are, for the most part, 80% trash. Even some of their better figures, and I'll put quotes around the word better. We're talking, looking at, let's see, Scott Steiner, Rick Steiner, Ric Flair, Sting, Brian Pillman, Arn Anderson. Those are some of the better figures that Galoob made, and they're average to below average figures. Sid Vicious, obviously the greatest wrestling action figure ever made. Barry Windham, again, another one that you could pretty much say the same thing. Absolutely amazing fighting poses for those figures. Absolutely love them. And when you get to the UK with the Freebirds, or you got Dusty Rhodes, for example, they display well. They look great. The way that they're crunched over kind of sucks, but they're still fightable figures. So that's to be excited about. Number one, pretty obvious answer. It's Rickroad from LJN. Because I think the LJN Rickroad, based on the size, it makes it a very nice statue. Something you could put in your display case, or if you want, put on your fireplace mantle. It's a nice little trinket. Obviously as a kid, you're not going to sit there and play with this because you can't. It's an unplayable figure. I still actually like this one better than the Ron Simmons. Much better. Obviously, the size difference plays a role. I think aesthetically it looks better. But because you do have one fighting attribute with this figure, which doesn't really count. And this one, you essentially can't do anything. No movable arms. You can't do anything with the rubber. Beautiful figure. It just unplayable. There's no qualities about the figure as far as a child being able to play or wrestle with this that you can make use out of. Yeah, you could say could drop kick someone, but I mean, really, that's not even something that you can really consider. Not really. A couple figures that I did bring out that did not make this list of the 10 worst figures, but I'll bring them up just for reference. I mentioned Jesse the Body Ventura. When I saw this for the first time, I think, actually it may not have been the first time, but I bought this from Move Over Swanson on eBay. As I mentioned before, Andrew Sabo has some of the best figures as far as collectability for those adult collectors. It's a decent looking figure, but this whole arm out, same thing like Axe and Smash has, it's terrible. It's absolute trash. And the only benefit Because to sit there and dangle your championship belt and make sure that no matter how you move, the belt won't fall off his arm. That's it. That's the only benefit of this pose. Fighting wise, I mean, if his arm was out or if his hand was out like that, maybe, it would be okay. But you got this weird sideways punch. I would hate using this as a kid. I would use the heck out of it if I had it as a child, but no. Jesse Ventura just doesn't do it for me. That's why I had him on my list in the top 10 least favorite. I don't remember what number I had him at. I think like number 5 or something. Maybe number 4. This is one of my duplicates. I pulled this out for reference. So, King Harley Race. This is actually a really gorgeous figure. I mean, beautiful. The overall design of this figure with the jacket and especially with the accessory, incredible piece. But his arms, they are high enough to the point, and with rubber, because you can extend them a little bit, they are high enough to make some kind of playability out of this, but they're still tucked in there far enough to the point where it would make it very difficult. As a display piece for an adult collector, absolutely amazing. Not necessarily. I don't know if I put it as a top tier figure based on display, but either way, display purposes or play purposes, I'd say mid-level figure. Where I'd place him at mid-level, number 35, 45, I don't know. I never went past my top 10 favorites, so I don't know how I would break these figures down for all the LJNs as far as 1 through 72, or again, however many figures there were. So he did not crack my top 10 least favorite when I did that video way back when. He did not crack this top 10 list of the worst action figures of all time. But he was close because I brought him out for the sake of this video. It just didn't happen. Another set of figures I brought out. Obviously, it's not these, I don't know, KO bootleg versions. I don't know who made these. I don't know if it's the same company. So, just kind of looking at these obviously face-wise, they look like Rumco's, and the point where the bodies are all the same, but you could basically tell the wrestler based on the face. So you could see Hulk Hogan in there, Big John Studd, got Andre the Giant in the back, Iron Sheik, and it looked like Jimmy Snuka in the corner there. These figures, bootleg figures, I guess. Maybe it was an actual company that made them, but they all have the same body type, so it's one of those figures that could have come out on my list, but just like Remco, at least they're actual fightable figures, movable arms and legs, and they can't stand them on their by themselves, so that's a possibility for being on this list. But all right, what time are we at? Wow, 33 minutes, guys. I had no clue I would take this long to make this video. Hopefully you guys got some enjoyment from it, because generally I don't like making videos too long. I want them to be longer than 10 minutes, but I don't like them to really exceed 20 minutes, because I like my viewers to be able to have the opportunity to watch these videos in one sitting. And sometimes I don't know about you guys, but unless I'm like really into the video, or if there's something really special about that video, I really can't keep the attention span of more than 20 minutes. So the next video I'm going to make, I don't know, I'm probably going to go back to some of my comparable figures, and I haven't decided which ones I'm going to work on next. I would actually like to do a countdown of some of my favorite Royal Rumbles or WrestleManias based on the cassettes I purchased recently. And there's a lot of really interesting storylines in there. And I think it was 2001. Yeah. Maybe 2000. So I heard that Vince McMahon won the 99 Royal Rumble. Obviously, I probably stopped watching wrestling by that point because I never knew that. And I'm watching either 2000 or 2001 Royal Rumble, and Vince McMahon is squaring off against Ric Flair, and it's just an absolutely insulting matchup. I I got through about halfway through it, and I got just so fed up that I just had to turn it off. So I'm thinking if I do those videos, I'd like to talk about that matchup. All right, everyone. I am going to end the video here. Once again, I just want to say, thank you so much for watching, and leave a comment if you'd like. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions or, responses, I really do appreciate, communicating with the viewers. So, I know that one thing I wanted to point out. I finally got my wrestling ring in. The Slingham ring from LJN. Right now, I just kind of have like my duplicate figures down there. Not all of them, because I still have a lot of duplicates on the shelf, but it's just something to keep off to the side. It looks nice. All right, I'm gonna shut up, guys. I promise this time. Good night, everyone.